All right, now for our first requirement of AUC sections 240.12 through 14, we'll be discussing professional skepticism. And we already discussed this a little bit from AUC section 200, but since now we're talking about fraud in this overall AUC section 240, then the standard setters found it necessary to reiterate the importance of professional skepticism when we're performing an audit and when we're assessing the risk of fraud. So first, it says, in connection with Section 200, we're supposed to maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit, and we need to recognize that material misstatement due to fraud could exist. There's a very real possibility of that, and that's whether or not we think that management is honest and has integrity based on our past experience with them. And also, being professionally skeptical doesn't mean that we need to disbelieve everything that management tells us or assume that every document is fraudulent or tampered with. We should accept the records as genuine unless we have a reason to believe that they aren't. And if something comes to our attention during the audit that the documents or the information that we receive isn't genuine, then we should investigate further. So this means that we shouldn't spend all of our time in the audit closely examining whether these documents are real or not, but we should keep our eyes open for situations or times that we notice that, hey, something's a little bit off with this document, or we enter into or we inquire with management and they tell us something that seems unusual or off based on our understanding. For example, if their response is vague or it sounds implausible, then we should investigate further, maybe ask them for more information or more supporting documentation to support what they've said to us. So in connection with this, we have some explanatory material here, A9 through 10 and A11. So let's go down to those sections and get some more details on how we remain professionally skepticism in performing our procedures. All right, so now we're down in the explanatory material where we're going to continue our discussion of professional skepticism. So we start out here with, it says that professional skepticism requires us to maintain an ongoing questioning mind of whether information and audit evidence suggests a material misstatement due to fraud may exist. And so that includes us considering the reliability of information as well as the controls over its preparation. So just to reiterate what we found in the requirements above, we still have to be professionally skeptical even if our past experience with the client has shown them to be honest and to have integrity. But the people can change sometimes, and situations change where they might not be as honest or have the integrity that they did in the past. So we need to be careful and keep a questioning mind as we perform the audit, and on the lookout for discrepancies of information that might signal material misstatement due to fraud. And as we stated before, we're not required to verify the authentication of documents, and that's because we're really not trained to be an expert in doing that. We're able to take these documents and responses as reliable. However, we need to remain professionally skeptical and question and further about information if it sounds unusual or out of the ordinary, or doesn't contain or look like what we would expect. And the way we might investigate further could be confirming directly with the third party who provided us with that information, or using the work of a specialist to assess the document's authenticity. So say, for instance, we receive a bank confirmation that says our client has X amount of dollars in the bank, but that bank confirmation kind of looks unusual. We can maybe call the bank and ask them if that's the right balance and if they're the ones that sent that confirmation to us. We can also hire someone outside the firm to analyze those documents to make sure that they are authentic for us. So next we see here in Appendix C, they've got some examples of circumstances that indicate the possibility of fraud. So let's go down there and take a look at those circumstances. Give us an idea of things that we should possibly look out for when we are being professionally skeptical throughout the engagement. Okay, so now we're down here in Appendix C, which gives us some examples of circumstances that might indicate the possibility of fraud. And we've got a lot of examples here, so let's just touch on some of the high points. And if you want to research these or read the rest of them later, then you can go to AUC section 240 in the back and read this Appendix C. But so the first examples of circumstances that might be a possibility of fraud are discrepancies in the accounting records. And this might be transactions that are recorded improperly. They're not supported. They're last-minute adjustments right before the financial statements are printed. Employees' access to systems are a little bit too flexible, and maybe another employee has told us there's fraud related to that aspect. So the next section might be conflicting or missing evidence. So that could be missing documents or documents that look like they're altered, documents the client can't find, or unexplained items in the reconciliations, unusual relationships between the accounts, inconsistent or vague responses from management about different accounts, some big differences between third-party confirmations and what's in the accounting records, credit entries and other adjustments made to accounts receivable records, so a debit or credit that's the wrong direction, some missing inventory or fewer responses to confirmations than we were expecting. There may also be conditions relating to governmental entities for nonprofit organizations that signal fraud. Significant transfers between funds, abnormal budget conditions, or abnormal procurement conditions, like they're buying things that they're not supposed to, unusual program conditions, unusual grant and donor conditions. There also might be problematic and unusual relationships between the auditor and management. For instance, they might not allow us access to records and facilities. They might give us time pressures to complete the audit too fast. Management might have complained about how well we did the audit or delayed in various ways. There might be some other circumstances. For instance, management might not be willing to permit us to talk to those charged with governance. The accounting policies might be abnormal, and there might be violations of the entity's code of conduct. So that's a lot of examples where the possibility of fraud may be present in the entity, and we need to remain professionally skeptical and keep our eyes open for these types of situations. And if we come across them, we should question and investigate further.